Africa is building, but the continent still faces a massive infrastructure deficit. Institutions like the UN Economic Commission for Africa and the African Development Bank estimate that Africa requires between 130 to 170 billion US dollars every year to close its infrastructure gap. Yet actual spending hovers around 80 billion. That leaves a financing hole of up to 90 billion annually. Against this backdrop, the Standard Gauge Railway, the SGR, emerges as one of East Africa's most ambitious and transformative projects. The vision is bold, a modern rail system stretching from the port of Mombasa on the Indian Ocean, across Kenya to Uganda, Rwanda, and potentially the Democratic Republic of Congo and South Sudan. This is part of the East Africa Railway Master Plan and the Northern Corridor Integration projects. The full line, if completed, would span over 2,700 kilometers, about 900 kilometers in Kenya from Mombasa to Malaba, roughly 550 kilometers in Uganda from Malaba to Kampala and onward, around 200 kilometers in Rwanda connecting Kigali to Uganda, and from there extensions could link to Goma and Bukavu in the DRC or north to South Sudan. In May 2024, ministers from Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, and the DRC reaffirmed their commitment to jointly mobilize funds to push this dream forward. The first step was Kenya's Mombasa to Nairobi SGR, a line of about 472 kilometers. Construction began in late 2014. Passenger services launched on the 31st of May 2017, and freight operations followed in January 2018. It cost 3.6 to 3.8 billion US dollars, financed about 90% by China's Exim Bank through a blend of concessional and commercial loans. The concessional portion carried a 2% interest rate, 20-year maturity, and a 7-year grace period. The commercial loan was at LIBOR plus 3.6%, repayable in 15 years with 5 years grace. The line was designed for 120 kilometers per hour for passengers and 80 kilometers per hour for freight. Its freight design capacity is 22 million tons per year. Travel time between Mombasa and Nairobi shrank from 10 to 12 hours by road to around 5 hours by train. And during construction, about 25,000 Kenyans were employed. Thousands more have since been trained in operations, signaling, driving, and maintenance. By 2024, the line had carried 2.45 million passengers and 6.53 million tons of freight. Passenger revenue for that year reached 4.09 billion shillings, boosted by a fare adjustment in January 2024. The Mombasa port, which feeds this line, hit a record 2 million TEUs and over 41 million tons of cargo in 2024, a strong base for rail freight. Next came Phase 2A, a 120-kilometer extension from Nairobi to Naivasha, opened in October 2019 at a cost of about $1.5 billion. It connects to the Naivasha Inland Container Depot and the Naivasha Special Economic Zone, which has become a hub for industrial investment powered by affordable geothermal energy. The critical missing links are Phase 2B and 2C, from Naivasha to Kisumu and onward to Malaba on the Uganda border. Together, these phases cover about 475 kilometers and are expected to cost around 5 billion US dollars. As of 2025, land acquisition and compensation are underway, with financing being structured in new ways. Kenya raised its railway development levy from 1.5 to 2% on imports in January 2025. Authorities are considering securitization of the levy to raise billions from capital markets. Partnerships with the UAE's Etihad Rail are under discussion. China Exim Bank has also signaled renewed interest in financing parts of the extension. Construction is expected to start once financial close is achieved, with government targets pointing to late 2025. On the Ugandan side, momentum picked up in October 2024 when the government signed a contract with Yapi Merkezi, a Turkish contractor, to build the Malaba to Kampala SGR. This line will be 273 kilometers, electrified at 25 kilovolts, and designed for 120 kilometers per hour. The project is valued at around $3 billion, with financing expected to come from export credit agencies and the Ugandan government. Construction is slated for 48 months once funding is finalized. Uganda's broader plan covers 1,724 kilometers of SGR lines, stretching north to South Sudan, west to the DRC, and south to Rwanda. Rwanda, a land-linked nation, is pursuing two complementary corridors. The Northern Corridor, Kigali connected through Uganda to Kenya's SGR. Rwanda formally joined the joint financing mobilization in May 2024. The Central Corridor, the Isaka to Kigali SGR, a 571-kilometer electrified line linking Rwanda directly to Tanzania's rapidly advancing SGR network to Dar es Salaam. Together, these options give Rwanda flexibility and redundancy in trade routes. Financing such a mega-project is complex. Kenya's Phase 1 relied almost entirely on China Exim Bank, but the next phases are diversifying. A mix of Chinese loans, possible African Development Bank support, private capital through public-private partnerships, and securitization of the import levy. Uganda's new Malaba Kampala contract represents a shift, moving from Chinese contractors to Turkish, with financing from European export credit agencies. In all cases, the railway development levy plays a central role. It's a surcharge on imports that now stands at 2%, generating revenue to service loans, and provide collateral for future borrowing. Large projects bring challenges. In Kenya, routing near Nairobi National Park sparked lawsuits and environmental reviews. Courts demanded detailed environmental impact assessments and mitigation measures like viaducts, noise barriers, and wildlife crossings. Procurement processes have also faced scrutiny. In 2019, Kenya's Court of Appeal faulted the legality of certain tender awards. By 2023, the Supreme Court set aside parts of those rulings, closing that legal chapter. The SGR's impact is already visible. Border procedures like one-stop border posts and electronic cargo tracking have reduced crossing times by over 60%. Combined with rail, transit from Mombasa to Kampala could shrink from 21 days by road in the past to under a week by rail. Environmental gains are significant too. Globally, rail carries about 6% of freight ton kilometers, but only 1% of transport emissions. Moving heavy freight from road to rail can reduce emissions by up to 75%, while also cutting road accidents and lowering road maintenance costs. But competition is real. Tanzania is rapidly building its own electrified SGR to link Dar es Salaam to Mwanza and eventually to Rwanda and Burundi. East Africa's shippers will choose whichever corridor is faster, cheaper, and more reliable. If completed, the SGR unlocks enormous opportunities: trade and logistics. Faster, more reliable freight to inland countries, reduced costs for fuel, cement, steel, fertilizer, and agricultural exports. Industrialization, special economic zones at Naivasha, Kisumu, and Kampala, export processing zones and logistics hubs, Lake Victoria, intermodal, Kisumu Port, and new vessels like MV Uhuru 2 provide critical lake rail connectivity. Employment, tens of thousands of jobs during construction, thousands more in operations, maintenance, and supply chains. Skills transfer. Training programs are producing a new cadre of East African railway engineers, operators, and technicians. Social mobility. Safer, faster, and more affordable passenger travel. Urban development around new stations. Improved access to services. Regional unity. Shared infrastructure strengthens the East African community and supports the African Continental Free Trade Area. Still, challenges remain. Financing and debt sustainability are constant concerns. Underutilization risk persists if extensions stall, stranding investments at Naivasha. Environmental and social safeguards must be enforced fairly. Regional coordination is critical to avoid mismatched timelines, and the competitive pressure from Tanzania's SGR could divert traffic away from the Northern Corridor. Mitigating these risks means finishing the Naivasha-Malaba-Kampala stretch quickly, harmonizing border systems, and ensuring tariffs remain competitive with trucking. The standard gauge railway is East Africa's most ambitious transport project in generations. 2 operational phases already demonstrate what's possible. Millions of passengers, millions of tons of freight, faster journeys, and safer travel. But the full payoff depends on completing the missing links. from Naivasha to Kisumu to Malaba, across into Uganda, and down to Rwanda. Built right, the SGR will be more than just trains and tracks. It will be the backbone of regional integration, linking ports to capitals, industries to markets, and people to opportunities. It is a story of vision, ambition, and cooperation. And its next chapter is about to begin. If you found this deep dive valuable, make sure to like this video, leave a comment, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our future explorations into Africa's biggest projects shaping tomorrow's economy.